With a remake coming, and Part 2 being the lowest rated Game of the Year winner, now is just as good a time as any to talk about my problem with The Last of Us. I'm going to lead with this. I don't hate this game. As a matter of fact, a lot of good can be said for the PS3 swan song. The story is very well acted, ignoring the fact that I'm getting very tired of seeing Troy Baker everywhere. The gameplay is tense if you ignore the mound of just hallways with nothing. And to be a PS3 game, the visuals have aged phenomenally, so much so that I personally don't see much of a point in buying the remake, especially for $70, no matter what the developers complain about on Twitter. All of that gets thrown out of the window when you get to the chapter titled The Firefly Lab. Now, as a quick recap, this area is the end goal of the first game. It's a cross-country trek that takes almost a full year in-game to deliver Ellie, the girl who is, in context, immune to the zombies. Fireflies, hearing this, hire Joel to transport Ellie to this hospital. The Fireflies will make a vaccine out of Ellie's life and in turn killing her in the surgery process. Joel, hearing this, takes the most rational route of shooting up a hospital, killing a surgeon, taking Ellie, shooting the leader of the Fireflies, and leaving, dooming humanity in the process for all we know. Then lies to Ellie's face about it and swears on it. And I don't hear anybody talking about this bit. This greasy acne on the face of this game. What I do hear people have a problem with is Joel dying in the first bit of Part 2. Like, what did you expect? He shot up a hospital to save a girl that he knew for a year. The evilness of this act is hammered in the fact that this is the only level that you have a fully automatic weapon. This man has to go. And in the first thing that they show in Part 2 is a graphic retelling of this story. And even Tommy, Joel's friend, looks him in the eye and says, "Excuse me, can you run that by me again?" And I know an excuse can be made that one bad level does not represent the whole package. But I subscribe to the thought of the ending is paramount. Now, what is a problem if I don't offer a solution? The answer to that question is the average Twitter user. So let's go about making a change. Joel, throughout his journey, has been shown as this griddled, apathetic man who, after suffering a parent's absolute worst nightmare, loses all empathy towards the world. This should have been backed up with Joel walking away from Ellie even after growing an attachment to each other, with Part 2 being on how to move on from regret or grief. Instead, we got a revenge plot with no real payoff. What is with this series and having endings I hate? To help show how I think this would play out conceptually, let's show two examples. The first being Crisis Core, one of my absolute favorite games, of which is also getting a remake. Ooh, topical. If you've played Final Fantasy VII before, then you know that the ending of this game eventually leads to Zack Fair's death. After trying to escape Shinra, after being hunted down and experimented on as a cost of trying to gain your freedom. As he ran, he made sure that Cloud lived, who, through the myriad of Mako experiments and trauma of watching one of his closest, helpers die, completely fries his brain, and his recovery in that process is a very important part of the main game, proving that a game can be made about moving on from a tragic loss of a close one. Now let's turn to a more direct comparison. Episode 43 of Metal Gear Solid 5. In this particular snapshot of this convoluted story, there's a parasite that reacts to specific languages. This specific strain is Kikongo. Now, after a lot of figuring out inside the game, you quarantine every member of the Diamond Dog that speaks this language. After a mutation, the parasite awakens, taking over the host, still proving that Huey is the absolute worst character of this entire saga. But the only preventative measure that could have been taken in this moment is death and staying monolingual. And this plays out as the most harrowing moment in the game as you strategically go through the quarantine lab and doing the only thing that can help by giving your soldiers and doctors a swift and merciful death. And even though this was your only course of action, the boss can only feel grief, showing his self-image to become a demon. And after cremation, turning the ashes of his fallen soldiers into diamonds to be taken into battle as a sacrifice that will not be forgotten. To be shown as shining lights, even in death. This is completely ignoring the fact that diamonds don't shine, but whatever, let's not ruin a good moment. Now, I'm only pointing this out because I want Last of Us to be good. This is a fantastic game with just a huge blemish that I don't think enough people are talking about. I am showing these two examples to hammer in the fact that I think this game could have been better. Hopefully you don't hate me too much. Thanks for watching, and always remember, the ending is paramount.